All right, Richard, welcome to the struggle bus.
Thank you.
I say that kind of being funny about it, but obviously there's nothing that's funny about your current lot in life. Before we get to that, I want to take a moment and just talk about how you and I come together. I posted an ad on Craigslist looking for individuals who are interested in sharing their story about struggles that they're currently dealing with in life. You respond to that ad. I meet with you on Friday. We film just a little bit. We begin to talk just a little bit. And then fast forward to where we are here today. And you're sitting in the back of my van that I'm hoping to be able to convert into some kind of a mobile studio slash podcast thing. And here you are, ready to share about you.
Here I am.
So, what I'd like to ask is, would you introduce yourself to us and tell us about yourself?
Okay. My name's Richard. 58 years old. I am originally from Indiana, Midwest, rural Indiana. How I came to Virginia, I have a cousin that married into a family that her husband was in the Navy. So she relocated out here to Chesapeake. My mother was going through some issues in her life, and my cousin said, "Hey, why don't you come out here and see if you like it and check it out?" So she did. She enjoyed the area, and she had been here for about 4 years, and then I went through a very serious struggle with a girl and whatnot. I was homeless in jail in Indianapolis, middle of winter. Got out with no place to go, and I ended up getting on a Greyhound bus coming here in 2017, and pretty much, not to go into detail, fell right back into active addiction. It was very easy to take advantage of new place, new people, and stuff like that. Part of the horrible reality of addiction. So here I am. I've been here since 2017, and that's kind of where I'm at today. Unless you want me to explain, what's happened since I've been here.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the addiction. Let's talk about the incarceration. Let's just talk about the overall struggle that you've gone through, especially as of late, these last couple of years, or at least since you've been here in Virginia.
Okay. Well, when I got to Virginia, of course, my mom let me stay with her, and I immediately, one of the easiest jobs I found to get is landscaping. So I got a job with a local landscaper, started working, and my idea in my mind was that I made that geological change or move and thought that everything would be better. And I would find out later that geographical changes do not work. So I'm working for this landscaper and doing fairly well. Actually, I didn't have a car at the time, nothing like that. So I'm working for this guy. He helped me get a vehicle. I bought a little cheap Mustang to get back and forth to the job. So as I'm working, I'm clean, I'm not using, really didn't have any desire to use at the time. I just was wanting to get away from my struggles in Indiana. I went through a horrible heartbreak over a girl I should have never been in a relationship with. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But as I'm working, I ended up running a crew, truck, trailer, landscaping, and one of the guys on my crew offered to pay me at the end of the week for giving him a ride. He would get to work, then I would give him a ride home, which was over in Norfolk. So that went well for a couple weeks, and this particular Friday, got off work, Gave him a ride to his residence, and as he's getting ready to pay me, he pulls out some drugs. And he says, "Hey, I really don't have the money to give you. I kind of need my money, but would you be interested in, some of this," which was my drug of choice, which is crack cocaine. And it hit me, I had no idea, no desire. Using wasn't even on my mind, but then there it was right in front of my face. So part of addiction that I still am struggling to understand is why. Why would I accept that and start that whole cycle over? But I did. Took the crack, and not to go into detail, but I didn't have any paraphernalia to use it with, so I went in a local grocery store, got everything I needed, went right to the bathroom and took a hit and got high with an employee in the stall next to me, which is crazy.
Holy moly!
Yeah. I took a big hit of crack, and I'm holding it in because I'm seeing this guy's feet right next to me.
Did you know he was there prior to that?
Though nobody was in the bathroom as I'm getting ready to get high, and as I'm taking the hit of crack, the door opens and he walks in, and I see his uniform through the crack in the door of the stall I was in the Food Lion uniform, and I'm like, oh shit, here I am with holding in a hit of crack cocaine, and here's an employee. So, I blow this big cloud of smoke out. Now the bathroom's full of crack smoke. Put away my paraphernalia and my drugs, and I am now high because I haven't been high for so long. I'm super high, and I'm walking out of the grocery store, and there it is.
I want to go back to that. Forgive me for jumping in, but yes. I've got to hear more on this. You take this hit in the bathroom, the employee's in there. Is there any interaction? Does the employee say anything? Do you remember anything? Maybe you don't. Of what happened immediately after you blew out that cloud of smoke and before you left out of that bathroom? Was there anything?
No. He was standing at a urinal, and I was in the commode part. So when I opened the door to walk out, the area I was in, I'm sure probably the guy knew what was going on. I had no idea. He did kind of turn around and take a look at me, which made me even more paranoid than I already was. So basically I just hit the door and left. And
so that experience was immediately ruined, or was it? Because I think about, I smoked crack in my lifetime. I think to myself, if I had done that after a long time of not doing that, and I was in that same exact situation that you were in, that would have ruined it for me right then and there.
Well, it did. It was a long walk from the bathroom, which was clear in the back of the grocery store, to the door. It was like, people watching me, and, of course, a lot of people can look at somebody and say, hey, that dude's high. He's using or whatever.
Or you're just paranoid and think
I was just paranoid. I don't know. But all I know is that I got the hell out of there as quick as I could, because, of course, now I am high and I want to use some more. So that kind of started the whole thing over again. I got high that day, Friday. I do believe that I bought some more crack cocaine and drove around getting high, using again. I hated myself for it. I just was like, stupid. So I continue to work, go back to work, and now I've got a connection, to get crack. So I continue to work. I continued to buy crack cocaine. It was just on the weekends at this point. And then eventually it escalated into, during the week, and then as it always does, every day. This particular landscaper I was working for had some pretty ratty equipment, and the truck I was driving had no dash, and when you would pull up to a stoplight and let off the gas, the truck would die. and I had it loaded with equipment, and I almost got into numerous accidents. So one day, not to make a long story, I basically almost got into an accident one day, parked a truck in a 7-Eleven parking lot, called him up and said, I'm done, come and get your truck. You know, I asked him numerous times to fix it, which wasn't the right approach. I could have went at it a little different, but now that I'm in this mindset of using and self-centeredness, you know, I basically was back into like blaming people for my problem. So I blamed him for the truck and the situation, and then I quit my job. So I continued to get jobs for other landscapers, but now I'm using every day. And the guys I worked for, you know, they love my work ethic. I work hard. I love landscaping, but they could tell something was not quite right. You know, borrowing money against my check, you know, asking my boss, hey man, can I get, you know, 40, 50 bucks on a Wednesday? And they're like, well, what do you need this for? You just got paid on Friday. And well, I, you know, lying, had to pay this bill, had to do this and whatnot. And it just started that whole cycle of addiction over. So now here I am in Chesapeake, using again, full-fledged, right back where I was. And I will say this about addiction, you know, I've been through several treatment centers, and they always told me it's a progressive disease. You never go back to a starting point. You always pick up right where you left off, and I found that to be true.
I want to jump in here with a couple of things. You know, when, timeline-wise, when did all of this begin for you? What year?
This was in 2017.
So you came here in 2017.
I came here in 2017 in the spring.
So by the end of the year, I mean, you were back heavy into addiction.
Back heavy into addiction. And ironically enough, right over here, we are at the Greenbrier Mall. There used to be a big Sears store. And I hate to admit this, but it is part of my story. I supported my habit with the money I made working, neglected all my bills, but I also found that I could support my habit by stealing. They call it boosting, stealing, whatnot. And I found that this particular Sears store, I can admit this because I already did time for it, but tools were a big seller. I quit my job and started stealing from this Sears store tools and selling them to a guy I met in Norfolk. And I ultimately got caught, got arrested, and was charged with 3 counts of grand larceny. Went to court, had a public defender. The public defender I had basically was in with the judge and the prosecutor because of some circumstances in the case, and basically sold me out because they should not have been felonies. At the time, for stealing, larceny, the cutoff was $200. Anything under $200 was a misdemeanor. Anything over was felony. So they bumped up the prices on the merchandise I took. So I ended up getting 12 years, some of it suspended, and I ended up with some time in prison and was shipped to St. Bride's. I went to St. Bride's prison. They had a shakedown. They found a piece of a razor blade that somebody had, it fell in one of the cracks in the locker. You have lockers under your bed. And they found it, and I was charged with a 102 weapon charge, which is a
100 series. That's
100
a major
series, Class A, and I had no idea that this razor blade, it was just a small piece. It couldn't have really been used as a weapon at all. So they ended up shipping me to Sussex 1, which is a level 5. Here I am, a nonviolent, low-level inmate, and now here I am at a level 5, chaotic, violent prison, and I served 2.5 years.
All together or at
No,
that prison?
at Sussex 1.
Oh man, that's a story in itself.
It is a story in itself because I saw some things that I would like to share about my experience at Sussex 1. I experienced some very horrible things. Not me personally, but I saw some very horrible things. The first month I was there, I saw something very horrendous. I won't go into detail right now. Will you share that? But it was something that is just mind-boggling. I've seen death. I've seen a lot of things. So,
can I jump in real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
I need to go shut that door over there. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine. So, after my level dropped after 2.5 years. And
How long did you have altogether?
I had,
In prison.
since I got caught with the weapon charge, they took some of my good time. So I ended up serving a total of 5.5 years. I ended up going to Greensville. They dropped my level, and I'm headed out the door. And I want to back up about Sussex 1. This was, because this is important with my story. This was during COVID. COVID was hit when I was at Sussex 1, and then they did the stimulus checks. So a friend of mine did the stuff on the computer, and I received all 3 of the
Stimulus
Stimulus
checks
checks.
while you were in prison.
while I was in prison, $3,600. So the whole time I'm in prison, I'm preparing when I get out, because re-entry in prison is a joke. Not to bash, DOC or anything like that, but to prepare a guy for re-entry into society after serving any period of time, in my opinion, I've done so much time, I know pretty much what it takes. And what they teach you, or what the information they give you, we already know it, or it doesn't apply. So anyway, I got all this COVID money, $3,600. I sent quite a bit of it home. And I go to Greensville. I serve about 2 months at Greensville, and I'm released on September 21st, 2021. And I get out of prison, got a pocket full of money, gung-ho about getting my life together. I had lost my Mustang. My mom had sold it because it was sitting in the parking lot of where we lived, and the tires were flat, and a homeless guy was living in it. So she sold it. So I get out of prison. I have no transportation, and I'm basically on my own. I didn't really seek out any kind of, help, Joe, which I should have done, because I'm Richard, and I can do it. I'm a man. I don't need help. I can do this on my own. You know what I'm
Says
talking about.
all of us.
Says all of us.
Let me jump in real quick. Man, so much to your story that just adds to follow-ups and continuations here. Being a low-level drug offender, getting sent to prison for theft charges, getting caught with this razor blade just in a common area, getting a Series 100 major charge, an institutional 100 series charge that gets you shipped to a level 5. You're in there during COVID. You get the stimulus money in prison. Like, there's just so many different stories that we could focus on. Sharing your story. We're not going to do that here today, but we definitely should do some follow-up work. I'm hopeful that we can do that. Let's pinpoint some dates here. When did you go to prison? When were you released?
I went to prison.
Or when did you get locked up, and when were you released?
I went to prison in 2018. I don't know the exact.
But you were locked up in 17, or were you locked up?
No, it was in 18. I had been here. I got here in the spring of 17, and I think it was I made it a year without going to jail, but I ended up going to jail sometime in, I believe it was the summer of 18, because I know that I went through receiving at Nottoway, and it was so friggin' hot. Concrete prison, no air conditioning. So yeah, and then I served I believe it was 5.5, so 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, the end of 22, so it was about 4 years, 4.5 years,
Wow.
my mistake. So yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. You just did 4.5 years. You've been home now for about three years. You shared with me on Friday when I met with you books and manuscripts and programs and just different things that you had written, probably 5 or 6 different things that you shared with me. All of those were written while you were locked up.
Yes. I write poetry. A lot of my poetry has just been on and off over the years. Most of it. A lot of people don't understand something about jail and prison. They think it's one thing. It's very boring. There's not a lot to do, especially when you're in a prison that when you're in a cell. So I utilize my time writing. Anyway, the 2.5 years I was at Sussex, I can't really go into detail because we don't have really, not at this time, but I have the idea of rehabilitation. I want to help people. So I wrote a complete rehabilitation program called the 181 Foundation to Freedom Program. Let me tell you something about Sussex One. They're air-actuated doors, Joe. I don't know if you're aware of.
No, I have no idea what you mean.
The doors are
air-powered.
open and closed by an air cylinder. And you could grab a hold of the door through the bean hole, which is a hole in the door, and pop it open. And guys were doing that so much and getting into so much trouble that what they did was they took a chain link and welded one piece to the frame and the other piece to the door and took a big master brass padlock and they locked them. So the guard had to come around anytime that you had to come out and physically unlock the door.
For your cell or for just every
For the
door?
cell. For every cell. They did it in every cell just to stop people from breaking out of their cells. So being locked in a cell with a padlock, I spent 2.5 years at Sussex One writing and studying and writing. So that's where, a lot of my books, A Disease Called Addiction.
You've got a book called American Crackhead.
I got a book called American Crackhead. It's basically my autobiography up to, I would say, maybe right before I got out of prison, about my life on the streets, homeless, jails, prisons, institutions, treatment centers, as an active drug addict.
Very interested in that book, and I want to be able to showcase that some kind of a way, maybe help you get that thing published.
Love to get it published.
Forgive me, we're going to bounce around here a little bit. You've been released since 2021. What has life been like for you out here, and primarily the addiction? Where are you at in recovery, and how long has it been since you last used?
I've been clean now for a couple months. Due to my situation, I can't afford it, and I don't want to.
You say you can't afford it?
Yeah. Crack cocaine, we all know, is very expensive.
But if you could afford it, where would you find yourself
Well, I don't, if I could afford it, as I sit here right now, I wouldn't even attempt to go use. I would continue to do what I'm doing today, and I do a little studying at home on my own. I have some contacts that I use. He's not really a sponsor, but he's just kind of a mentor. But I don't use today, just for today. That's one thing I learned in the program. But let me go back to when I got out of prison. When I got out of prison, I had this COVID money. I also had been working for a guy flipping houses, and he wanted to help me. He wanted to help me get a vehicle. And let me back up. When I was stealing the tools from Sears, I had met a guy over in Norfolk that was, first he was buying the tools from me, and then, oddly as it may sound, he was a drug dealer. You would never think it by meeting him. So now I'm trading him tools for crack. So I get out of prison, haven't seen him for 4.5 years. My old boss helped me get a truck. I bought a nice little truck with some of my COVID money, and he helped me out. And he had changed his business up, so I couldn't work for him. So now I'm looking for work. And I ran back into this guy I was selling tools to. Just ran into him randomly. I was just out and about. And I've got several $100s of my COVID money in my pocket at this time. So he's like, hey, pull over to it was down there, there's a zoo in Norfolk. There's a little parking lot where people go down and fish. So we're talking, and I'm like, hey, what's up, and how you been, and where you been? You know, I've been in prison and whatever. And he's like, well, you know, I quit. And there's another guy there with us, and he's like, well, I quit, you know, selling drugs. I got a towing business now. However, if you need anything, talk to my guy right here.
So he brought the guy.
Well, the guy was already there.
Okay.
He was already there. They were kind of together, but he followed us down to this little park. So here I am, fresh out of prison, no direction in my life, miserable, and I've heard you talk about, and some of your other people, Joe, talk about loneliness. I was the most miserable, loneliest guy I've ever been. I had no friends, I didn't know anybody, and I just was craving something in my life, something, attention, just to get to, you know, interaction with somebody. And I found it easy, as sad as it is to say, that it's easy to interact with drug addicts because they want to pretend to be your friend and all this stuff. So anyway, I ended up purchasing some crack cocaine at that time. Here we go again, you know, back on the vicious cycle of using, and here I am with a truck, paid for, got the title, no job, got, you know, several $100s of my COVID money, and you know how it works. Once, you know, one is too many, 1,000's never enough. And I started using, and I continued to use, try to get jobs. I would get a job, lose a job, get a job, lose a job, due to my addiction. Not showing up for work, lying, being late, up all night, getting high. You know, then the money runs out, then I'm back to stealing again. And I hate doing that, and it's just horrible. And that's kind of what happened. The transmission went out on this pickup truck. I didn't have the money to put a, you know, new transmission in it, or even a used one. Ended up selling the truck. Was living in a halfway house in Virginia Beach, one of the Oxford houses. Was working with a guy doing fences, decks, construction work. Lost my truck. And one night I was getting high, and I swerved over by Salem Road and hit a pothole and popped a tire in my mom's car. No spare, so I'm sitting out there trying to figure out how I'm going to get back. I'm high, and I missed my curfew at the Oxford house and was kicked out. So now I'm homeless, no job, lost my job, and you know, at this point in time, my family's just kind of fed up with all my bullshit, which I don't blame them, and I'm basically homeless. So I ended up going to the Salvation Army treatment facility, went through that for a while. That's another story. And ultimately, numerous jobs, was homeless for a while. You know, my mom was like, no, you know, you can't come here homeless, and just wandering the streets. And then finally I was like, you know what, I've had enough. And I went through another rehab, got out of that rehab, relapsed a couple times, and then I met a guy, another landscaping guy, really good guy, started working for him and was paying some bills, you know, using my mom's car, which just recently lost due to some mechanical issues and not having the funds to fix it. And the landscaper I was working for a couple months ago pretty much said, hey, that's it for the season. He's retired. He just does it for, you know, extra money. He gets some pensions and stuff. So here I am now with no job, no transportation, and I'm clean, but I'm this close. What I shared with Joe the other day about a campsite right over here, you know, I'm this close. You know, I'm this close to being right back out on the street, and I struggle. That's why I'm in the struggle van, because I struggle every day when I get up about what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, what am I willing to do to get a job and go to work, and You know, and that's where I'm at today, is like I'm at this crossroad, and Joe giving me the opportunity to share my story is helping me immensely, because it's an outlet. But I will say this. Let me say one thing about addiction. You know, God created us with emotions, and negative emotions are tough, especially for me. Depression, anxiety, things like that. And the drug of choice that I use is a perfect tool to kill emotion. And that's how I've chosen to get rid of my fear, my anxiety, my worry, the guilt and shame that I have of my past. And I struggle with that every day, you know, facing it, getting up every day going, here's a 58-year-old man, and I live with my mother, no job, no transportation, no significant other, no girl, and I hate myself for the life I've led, and I need to face that, you know. I don't need to go back to using a substance, because when it's all said and done, the problems are still there.
Let's go back over to that camp. I really want to get some more of that camp, because that is interesting to your story in regards to, you mentioned that you've either been there or find yourself not far off from that.
I've been there. Joe, I'll tell you, I've slept in abandoned houses, under bushes, under bridges, behind dumpsters, in workout rooms of apartment complexes. I mean, there's been times I'd curl up right underneath that tree right there, so tired, being up for days on crack. And, you know, this is a reminder of how close I am. I'm this close from being homeless. With my situation right now, I mean, it's not good.
I want to jump in a little bit and say that I see that for you. I see that you're on the cusp of either coming or going, and it seems like, from what I've heard of your story so far, that you've spent most of your time just going. And
yeah.
Oh wow.
That's obviously a campsite.
Definitely active.
Yeah, and this is, I really don't know what to say. I mean, to me, being homeless, I believe that a guy can have 4 walls to walk into and all the creature comforts of a home and still be homeless. Because to me, living in a house, you know, doesn't really mean anything. It's a home is family, living in a frame of mind that's positive, doing something good for the community like what Joe's doing. But being out on the street with no, you know, hot water, no showers, that's homeless, you know, and that's it's a tough way to live life. No place to cook other than maybe on an open fire, or, you know, I like I said, I've been there, and it's no fun. And I feel for all the people that struggle every day out in the street, homeless, and don't know where they're going to lay their head, you know, from day to day. So this area right here, like I say, is a reminder, and it's a motivator for me to keep striving forward and do something positive, get a job, do whatever it takes. You know, I went to a lot of drastic lengths to get high and get my drugs, so I can do the same with sobriety and getting my life, you know, back in order, because I have to prepare for what's coming in my life, and it's a personal thing with my family, and I have to prepare because Richard's going to have to step up and start taking care of himself and be a responsible a person again. You know, so that's where I'm at with the struggle I'm in. Is I'm at the bottom of a staircase, and I'm working my way up. I can't go down any further. It's time, you know, to start working my way back into society and dealing with my past regrets and, you know, guilt. I can't live with that anymore. You know, I gotta move forward. But it's a beautiful day out. I want to
Just keep it moving.
Yeah, I want to keep it moving and you know, not focus on negativity. There's so much opportunity in this area of Virginia. I know there's a lot of work. It's just, like I said, I struggle with transportation. I do have a bad knee that kind of hinders me from doing certain things, but and the thing about me is that I've got this black cloud hanging over my head of not being able to forgive myself for the things that I've done in the past that's put me in this position I'm in. I shouldn't be in this position, but I am. I should be, have been on a job for, you know, some time. I should own my own house. Maybe I should have my own business. I've always wanted to be a business owner. I've always wanted to have, you know, a business of some type, whether it deals with cars or, you know, I've always wanted to have a halfway house. I always wanted to help the homeless. But I'm not in that situation right now, and I'm on that border line of either reverting back to my old ways or clawing my way back to one day at a time, being clean, sober, and successful, finding work, and just do something positive. You mentioned something about humanity. What am I contributing to the good of humanity? Nothing right now. You know, I don't think I'm hindering it, but I'm not helping it.
You know, I hear your story, Richard, and it definitely sounds like you're stuck in a repetitive, vicious cycle of addiction where you teeter-totter with, you know, sobriety, for sure. Want to ask a couple things and then wrap this up. You know, what do you think could be one thing, if there was anything, that could help you to put some distance between you and the addiction?
Well, I don't know if you can say distance, because I believe that, you know, every day that I wake up is that fight and that battle. And yes, as I put together, you know, as I'm doing, you know, some clean time, I guess the biggest thing that would help me more in my addiction would be getting to the point of being able to make amends to see, this is where that emotion comes in.
Take your time.
I've hurt so many people. I've hurt so many people, Joe, over the years that blessed with so much opportunity that I've just trampled and took for granted. And that's the one thing that that I want to do more than anything, is make amends. It's not a job. It's not money. It's being able to go back to the people I've hurt and making that genuine amends to let these people know that I'm really, truly sorry for what I did to them in their life. I'm sorry about this, man.
I'm sorry that I brought out this.
Yep. See, this is what I hate about life is
it hits you. I've shed some tears as of recently myself, and you know, sometimes it's refreshing. You mentioned watching my videos and hearing me talk and other people talk about the loneliness.
Yeah.
Everybody, including myself, that I've been working with as of late, especially as of late, deals with that above, or at least deals with that amongst so much else, just the loneliness and not having someone to talk to, being able to talk to, being able to get these damn things off of your chest. It's
Yeah, and that's the tough part, is that all the people in my life that would listen to what I had to say and listen to my problems and give me advice and try to help me in my addiction, I took advantage of them. I used them, and that's one of the most difficult parts of recovery is, getting past that. You can't change that. And the things that I've done to people, I haven't hurt anybody physically or harmed anybody, but I've done so much more damage. I've broken their trust. They depended on me, and so many people say, man, you're such a good guy. Not only do I want to work with you, I want to be your friend. Let's have a beer after work or whatever. And when I don't follow through and be the friend that people want me to be, that's hard. And I beat myself up every day. And that's one of the main reasons why I use, like I said earlier, I use crack cocaine, because it kills all that emotion. It's good to cry. It feels good. I actually have a poem I wrote called Tears. I'll share it with you sometime. But, that's what had distanced me more than anything, Joe, from my, I believe from my addiction is being able to go back to, whether they accept my apology and my amends or not, just for my sake, I want to be able to go back to, and there's some main people, in the past that need to hear from me and need to hear a sincere apology. That's the main thing. Once I get to a point to where I can do that and be genuine, that's going to be huge in, moving forward. And the desire to do it is what's keeping me going today and keeping me, clean right now, because, I can't start that cycle over again, and I'll never get to that point to where I'll have the ability to make amends, to the people I've hurt in my life. So anyway, yeah, that's to answer your question. That's, it's a combination of things, but I think the one biggest thing that would boost my life in a positive direction would be to get to the point to where I can make amends.
Well, I'd be hopeful to see that happen for you, and hopeful to see that this video, and hopefully more that we do together, could be something for you to look at and utilize as a tool to keep you on the path that you need to be on, that you should want for yourself, which ultimately starts first with sobriety. Richard, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for the time being. I want to thank you for sharing your story with us so far. I look forward to sharing more of your story if you want to do so. And hey, man,
yeah,
it's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.